Back in the 70s, this guy committed one of the worst crimes possible. And the worst part is, he went uncaught for nearly 2 decades. John List was born in 1925 to a strict religious household, and by the time he was out of high school, he had enlisted and served in World War II. After the war, though, he would enter college, but shortly after, the Korean War would start, and he re-upped to join there, and that's when he would meet his future wife, Helen. After his time in the Korean War, he would actually have a pretty successful job where he ended up having the ability to purchase a Victorian-style mansion in New Jersey for his wife, kids, and even his mother to come and live with them. But things would start to decline rapidly after he lost his job and wasn't able to come to terms with telling his wife. He would often go to the train station instead of going to work and just reading the paper, being unnoticed. During this time also, Helen would be sick and end up having depression, which led to her not going to church as much, and the rest of the family seemed to not keep up to John's standards of religion. It was at this point that he felt like their souls were being damned to hell, and he decided to do something about it, and that something was one of the worst possible plans you could think of. On November 9th, 1971, he would go through with his plan by going into the kitchen and shooting his wife in the head, killing her instantly. He would then go up to his mother's room and end her life in the same manner. And the reason he did this was because he didn't want his mother to deal with the burden of what he had just done and what he was going to do more later on. After he finished all this, he went and brought his wife's body into the dining room, and he waited for his kids to come home from school. His first child that would be murdered would be his oldest daughter, Patricia, who, once she walked in, he immediately shot her in the head and drug her into the dining room as well to be with her mother. He would also do the same thing with his youngest son, Frederick. After that, he would end up actually making himself lunch and going to the bank to close out all the accounts. He would also end up telling the schools that the kids wouldn't be there for a while because they were visiting a sick relative, and he even stopped mail from coming into the house so it wouldn't look suspicious. But one of the most depraved things was that his oldest son, John Jr., had actually had a soccer game at that time, and he actually drove to the game and watched it, knowing that he had just murdered the rest of his family. And after the game ended, he gave John Jr. a ride to the house, where he then proceeded to end his life as well. After it was all done, he ended up placing his wife and children in sleeping bags in the dining room with the thermostat low, and his mother was actually left in her room because he was unable to move her. The victims wouldn't be found for nearly a month until police were called to the house, and by that point, John was long gone. He even removed all pictures of his face from family photos so that they wouldn't be able to have a clear way of finding him. John would end up moving to Denver, Colorado under the assumed identity of Robert Clark and just continue to live his life like nothing had happened, even going as far as to getting remarried and participating in his local church. But no matter how much he ran and tried to fake his way through life, his past was going to catch up to him, and it was in the form of a TV show that did it. In 1989, the show America's Most Wanted had actually did an episode about the List murders and had a professional sculptor recreate what he might look like aged up over time. And shockingly enough, it would actually gather some traction because one of John's neighbors in Colorado would call in saying that that was him. And he would end up getting arrested in Virginia 2 weeks later. John would be convicted of 5 counts of first-degree murder and given 5 life sentences, all to be served consecutively. However, he wouldn't be able to serve out nearly as much of the time as he should have, since he would end up dying in 2008 due to complications from pneumonia. Until next time, make sure you know who your neighbor is.